This game is not as bad as a lot of reviews might make you think, but definitely it's not also very good, but there are some parts that are pretty good and some parts that are not. Let me explain. Before we get into the video, I wanted to say that this is my single player experience because I did not have any friends that wanted to play Redfall, no surprise there, but also I am a single player in my heart. I very rarely play multiplayer games, and I don't think it's unfair to talk about this game in a single player perspective since there is a single player mode. So let's get into the game. It is developed by Arcane Studios, a really fun dev team that have made cult classics like Dishonored, Arx Fatalis, Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, Pret that nobody played but still a lot of people liked, those who played, and Deathloop that was received kinda sort of okay-ish, and it was a pretty good game. The point is that they have always had this sort of a freedom of approach to their games. It feels like they have always strived to give more and more freedom to their players. Unfortunately, Redfall is their first big bloop in that sense, because there is very little freedom, because the gameplay does not facilitate that traditional arcane simulation style freedom. The game is so very basic. It is a looter shooter with an emphasis of 4-player co-op, but like I said, there is a single player mode as well. And it is of such a very basic looter shooter. You have one of the 4 characters you can choose from. They have 3 distinct abilities that are not that bad. Like, I played most of my time with Jacob, who has these scout stealth sort of abilities. I have a raven that could see and mark on the map where are the nearest enemies. I can turn invisible, and then there is ultimate attack where I have a magic sniper rifle that deals huge amounts of damage, and I heal from that. So yeah, pretty basic. You pick up weapons along the way because it's a looter shooter. Your inventory soon will be full of weapons in different colors as usual: green, blue, purple, and golden. You know the deal. Very basic stuff. And the weapons in themselves are what you expect. Shotguns, handguns, revolvers. There is a flare gun, that is pretty cool. And then there are 2 more interesting weapons. One is the UV light gun that petrifies vampires, and it can be useful. And the stake gun. And stake gun is interesting because it deals a lot of damage. It deals huge amounts of damage to vampires. The regular enemies can be one-shotted by it. Sub-boss enemies take 2 shots, super-boss enemies take more shots. But yeah, in general, stake gun is pretty powerful. Although I have one gripe with it. For some reason, the stake gun, you know, the gun that shoots stakes, the stakes that should be plunged into the vampire's heart, right? It deals more damage if you headshot a vampire. Let that sink in. And I think that is emblematic of this game, because there is not a lot of inventiveness going into the basic gameplay, because it is just a basic first-person shooter game. There is nothing more there. And that is unfortunate. I would say that the overall story, the large narrative of what is going on, is quite interesting. There is some arcane brilliance to it. The vampires have overtaken our little island and no one can leave because they have frozen water with vampire magic or something. And we must find out who is this Hollow Man and how can we stop him. It's pretty good. It's interesting. But NPCs deliver their lines like they are, well, NPCs from an MMO. They are standing statically and ordering us around to fetch items for them. The mission explanations are delivered to us in a still image format with some background narration, and our character is just there. They have some background, but there is no character growth, no actually interesting bits to explore, as we are there just to shoot vampires, preferably with 3 other people. The combat in itself is very basic, it's serviceable. It's not good, not bad, it's just there. And it is okay, except for the parts that were definitely made for co-op, because sometimes you can get into the missions and situations where you get rushed down by like 4 or 5 vampires, and if you are one-on-one with a vampire, it is very fair. I would even say that sometimes you feel overpowered, but when you get into a fight with let's say 5 vampires and a couple of cultists shooting at you, then definitely it feels like it was made for co-op, because you get rushed down so fast, which in itself is not that bad idea, because my character anyway is more of a scout and a stealth guy, but still not very pleasant, and definitely it feels like it was made for 4 people, I guess. But yeah, in general, combat is serviceable. I didn't have any gripes. I shoot enemies and they die, so yeah. One of the bad things is that AI is pretty dumb. Like human NPCs sometimes will just run like right next to you and they will not shoot. Sometimes they will run from a base out in a straight line where you can just headshot one after another. And yeah, vampires are a bit better, but I don't think it's because their AI is better. I think it's just because they have a teleport ability that when you trigger them, they warp to you and they try to attack you. So they don't get stuck on stuff as much. So yeah. Yeah, that is the bad part. The good part of the game is the environment. Like the small town American city is very charming. It is very good. It has this arcane charm to it. Actually, I was playing it and I thought that I would like them to swap out the Redfall gameplay and put in some sort of a Lovecraftian, cozy farming, fishing simulator. Maybe like Dredge. Just like make Redfall Dredge DLC where you just go on a boat and fish for ocean horror or something. The sound design also is pretty good, even though this is definitely not a horror game. Sometimes the quotes and the monologues that the Hollow Man, the main baddie of the game, says to you, or I guess to the town throughout the televisions that have been thrown are all around the city, are very creepy. It is unnerving, and the vampire sounds as well. You can hear them suck blood and murmuring something to them when you are close. It is unnerving, and I think that is a plus, because the design is very arcane-ish with the big hands, and sometimes it can look cartoony and comical, but the sound balances out. While playing this, I started to wonder, is this the situation like with Gotham Knights, where Microsoft, Bethesda, or maybe the Arcane themselves realized that people are not that into looter-shooter live service games anymore, and they started to cut out stuff. In Gotham Knights, it was very visible that you got only like part of the game, that it was cut around the microtransaction live service stuff so hard. Here you do not get that feeling, but I still feel like the cancer of microtransactions was cut out and this is what is left. I am not sure. It's hard to say, but maybe there's something to it. I played Redfall for, I don't know, 10, 12, maybe a bit more hours, and I had almost fun. Like, I wouldn't say that this is my favorite gaming experience or anything like that, but it's definitely not like a super bad game if you want to just veg out. There is not a huge amount of depth, but I think this would be a pretty perfect game to play with your friends. If they have Game Pass and you have a free Friday or Saturday evening, like 4 or 5 hours, then I think this is a pretty good game to catch up with your friends and just do shoot some vampires in the head or something like that. I think, yeah, if you have any better games to play, then probably play those better games because the Redfall is not that great, but it's definitely not a 4. If I would be pressed to give any marks, I would say it's closer to 6 or 7 because it is okay. It's just not very groundbreaking, and it is definitely not the high watermark for what Arcane can do. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I will be back in a couple of weeks with some longer videos about stuff. Bye!